Fifthly is what I will call daily adoption. Some of you may be adopted. Some of you may have siblings that are adopted. You may have a friend who is adopted. I have a friend who has 4 kids, and he and his wife were foster parents to another kid, 2 or 3 years old. They were foster parents for 2 years, and then they adopted that child. So now they have 5 children. Let's say that you're planning to adopt a child. Adoption is messy. There's lots of waiting, there's lots of phone calls, there's lots of paperwork you need to fill out. It's a long, arduous, tedious process. Lots of people to contact, lots of hoops to jump through. And after you've jumped through all the hoops, now your child comes home. And finally, when the child comes home, is that the end of the story? No, that's just the beginning of the story, because now you see they have to learn to live with each other. There is a change of routine. There is a change of the status quo. The adopted child needs to learn how to live in this new family. It may be a new culture. It may be a new language. The existing family needs to learn how to live with this new other person that was not a family before, but now they have to consider as a family. Similarly, evangelism is messy. We forget that evangelism is messy, and we are surprised by the mess in evangelism. We may have personal or cultural reasons that prevent us from doing or having evangelism in our churches. And that's probably because it is messy. Let me give you an example. In the church that I talked about, that I grew up in our home church back in India, we had the church for many years, and then we had this ministry among drug and alcohol addiction. On Sunday morning, after we started the ministry with drug and alcohol addiction, on Sunday morning what happens? The former drug addicts and the former alcoholics now need to come to church to worship. So they do come to church to worship. Does that go smoothly? Absolutely not. The existing people, some of them, caused a problem because they didn't want drug addicts to mingle with their family. Evangelism is messy. Adoption is messy. Living together in a family situation with people that were not your family before, that is messy. And many times we forget that we ourselves were outside the family of God, and we were adopted, and we were brought in, and we were accepted, and we were made part of the family. And so Paul has to keep reminding us to remember that we were once sinners. So in Ephesians chapter 2 verse 13 it reads, "But now in Christ you who once were far away have been brought near." Ephesians 5:8, "For you were once darkness, but now you are the light in the Lord." Colossians 1:21-22, "For once you were alienated from God and were enemies in your minds because of your evil behavior, but now He has reconciled you." It takes a while for things to become normal, doesn't it? In an adopted family, when the new kid comes in, it takes a while for the two groups of people to learn to adjust to each other, and it may take many years. In some rare cases, it'll never get normal again. Let me ask you a question. What if you adopted a child and it's not normal? It takes a while for it to get normal. What if in your house you had a daily adoption? Things would never get normal. Things would always be messy, and things would never fit together. Being messy would be the new norm. Being imperfect would be the new norm in a house that has daily adoptions. If the goal of the church is evangelism, it will never come to a place of being perfect. A church that is truly fulfilling its mission and purpose will always be an imperfect church. In a way, having a steady culture is a sign of spiritual decline. And having a changing culture in church with imperfections and difficulties as the old family works with the new family. The old family accepts the adopted people, and that imperfection is a sign of spiritual growth. 3-year-old Michael Brown found himself unable to be with his biological mother, so he was sent to a foster home at the age of 18 months. For his 3 years, he lived in 3 foster homes, and he was destined, it seemed, to live in foster homes for the rest of his life. But on December 20th, 2015, Tara Montgomery, the 3rd foster parent, decided to adopt him. As expected, he was ecstatic, and a photograph of him at the courthouse where the adoption was settled went viral. There are many people outside our churches waiting to be adopted, that need to be adopted into the family of God. There are many hindrances to evangelism, but upsetting the status quo is the least excusable of them all. There is a need for the church to be as a family. Let me give you 2 examples, one from the East, one from the West. In the West, there is increased loneliness. In spite of the social media and the portrayal that we have on social media, there is a deep-seated need for fellowship. The increased individualism leads to increased loneliness in the West. In the East, the issue is that individual conversions from non-Christian families brings a need for family. And so whether you're in the East or the West, there is a need for family. And so secular groups are creating this family system because of the need for family. So there are many clubs and groups of different kinds. Almost any group can become a family if they choose to come together that way. Unfortunately, the church has forgotten that it needs to be a family. And the love of the people within should be one of the attractions in the world in which the church is.